Just a quick disclosure to share in conjunction with this podcast. Each of us are speaking to our personal experiences and do not consider ourselves experts and cannot offer medical, therapy, financial, or legal advice. We represent a wide range of experience on the autism spectrum and will always honor each perspective that is brought to our discussions. Our experiences, opinions, and perspectives are all unique and different and will be celebrated. Thank you so much for listening and connecting with us. Thank you. Hello, everybody. Welcome to Navigating Adult Autism. We are just a bunch of moms with a bunch of opinions, a bunch of experience, and a lot of perspectives. We are all here tonight. We're missing our pal Cynthia, but tonight we are here with Elizabeth, Kara, Heather, Tara, Dawn, and I'm Mary, and we are talking tonight and welcoming our friend Lynn Neidigh. She is with Achieve SWMO, which is Southwest Missouri. We are in Springfield, Missouri, and she is in a partnership with Evangel University, correct? And we are glad to have her here, and she's going to tell us a little bit about her wonderful program. And first, when we get started, Lynn, just go ahead and tell us a little bit about yourself and what got you to where you are now. And we'll dive in, listeners, to the program in just a few minutes after we hear from Lynn. So go ahead and welcome. We're glad you're here.
Thank you, Mary. And thank you
welcome.
For the honor of being invited to speak. I've known many of you for some time, and I really appreciate all of you. You've helped me in my journey as well. So I should start with
the Achieve program, which is the word achieve, right? So
yes.
Okay.
My most recent adventure journey is developing the Achieve program here in Southwest Missouri in partnership with Evangel University. It's a post-secondary program for individuals with disabilities who are interested and motivated to build a life of purpose. And we focus our 3 pillars on life management, career exploration, and self-determination.
Oh, I love that.
And our students currently attend 3 days a week from 9 to 3. The morning time is spent in the classroom focusing on our life management skills. And these are things like your executive functioning, budgeting, all those lovely social skills that we need to work on, mindsets, those kind of things. And then we do a lunch, and then in the afternoon, we do work-based learning sites where we primarily focus on work readiness skills. And we've chosen some of these, and our self-determination is kind of braided throughout the program. We've found success because we are a small group and small classes, and we are really there for the students to coach them on all of those social interactions or work readiness skills right then when it happens, as opposed to, oh, okay, well, we got fired that time. We're in a revolving door. Now let's go in and see what's happening. So our goal is on our work skills specifically to build a very strong foundation of those work ready skills, which are common for our young adults to end up getting fired on and that rotating door to go.
Yes, we've talked about that before.
It's happened, hasn't it?
Yeah, yes, it does. So we actually wanted to start our program in 2020 and had gotten everything ready, and then we put that on pause. And
did something happen in 2020?
Something happened, yes. But since 2020, we actually have a evidence-based curriculum from Project Life.
Oh.
And this is a post-secondary curriculum that gives us support not only for classroom type topics, but it also is really strong in providing rubrics and post-test, pre-test, things like that for work skills. So when our students are at work, we are measuring them on various tasks, as well as social interaction, punctuality, listening to supervisors, et cetera. And we have a quantitative measurement out of every job rotation so the students and their parents can see where their growth and where their needs need to go. So
are they various job sites in the city, or is it all at Evangel?
it's a great question. We primarily utilize sites on campus.
Okay.
But depending on the individual and their interests and our ability to, gain some support in the community, we have been successful at doing community sites as well.
Okay, good. So and I can see why you wanted at Evangel. That's why you're there. It's part of the program, and they have many work sites there, I'm sure. So that's great.
Yeah, so it's a little bit of both. Some other unique pieces of our program are we do have a peer mentor piece to that. The Evangel student body is just amazing, very compassionate young adults that just have a heart for our young adults and do a great job of including them in their peers interactions and things like that.
Are they students, Evangel?
Yes. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So the peer mentors are all students, and they primarily come from a club that's actually part of Evangel called Include EU. Fancy that.
I like it. Okay.
That's where we recruit most of ours, but they can also be from any, any discipline. But they do from any, college
program.
Yeah.
Okay.
So we have that, and then
Elizabeth has a question.
I had more of a comment. As I was showing, so I have a son that has actually applied to the program. Chase has, and as I was kind of showing him, one of the first things I showed him was, when you did. It was something on campus, and it was like an activity. I don't know if it was like homecoming or welcome back to campus, something like that. And I just was overcome and looking at this and thought it was great. And I showed Chase, and he's like, "Oh, they have cotton candy." Oh. And I was like, "Yep, they have cotton candy too."
Yes. There you go. We never know what recruits students, but I love that.
Lynn, you're going to now have to have cotton candy available at all times.
We could do that.
Yeah.
That could happen.
So the Evangel students, this is something they sign up for
Yes.
through that club. Okay.
Yes, it doesn't have to be the club, but they are very supportive by having the club there to support our students. We also have students that are in the special education degree program come and work with our students. I don't remember exactly how many hours they have to work with our students in the classroom per semester, but they're in there a lot.
When you say they include them in their activities, like for example, like
what does that look
typical college activities?
Yeah. It depends.
Okay.
And it also depends on the individual and how social our Achieve student is. We've had some students literally be the princess of the campus and just be everywhere. She was invited to somebody's wedding in Wisconsin, and she actually went.
Oh,
and so it really kind of depends. And then there's others. Like this year, we have a young man, and we always have them exchange their phone numbers, and he blocked the guy's cell phone number. So
so there's that.
That's funny.
So we did some little encouraging. It's like, no, you do know this guy. You just need to hook up with him. But a common thing that they do is go to chapel together, which we'll talk about. This is not. It is not required like it is for most Evangel students, but it's the social thing to do when you're there on campus, and so that's why our students go.
Right.
They go to ball games. They'll invite them to movie nights. Like homecoming probably is what you saw, I'm guessing. But they'll hook up with them there and do that. They'll just call and say, "Hey, stay after school and we'll go play some hoops, or we'll go get a coffee."
Love that.
So it varies on what the individual is and what their interest is.
Wow. And it's varying disabilities, right? And diagnosis.
Yes,
okay.
It is. Yeah.
And how long has the Achieve program been operating?
Yes, our first class was in 2021. So we're ending just now our third year, beginning our fourth year.
And how long do students typically stay in the program?
When you sign up for a year. So it's expected that they be there for
What
2
if they want to
semesters.
stay more than 1 year? Is it possible?
It is possible, yes.
Okay, so they can continue on their goals?
Yes. So just like college, a program. If you feel like you can gain more out of the program, they do have to reapply, and the admissions committee does take that into consideration, and they do ask them questions of what's your goal going to be this time, and how are we going to tailor the program to actually meet your outcomes. So that's
Awesome.
So
not
if
just
somebody
there forever.
was really successful, like at the end of the year, and maybe they weren't coming back, do you guys help them, like community-wise, find something that
Like the
works
next
with the
step?
skill set? Right. Or is that something they need to get directed,
right.
from somewhere else?
That's a great question. We try to remind ourselves that we are not employment providers.
Yeah.
However, we are very invested in our students, and we do everything that we can to help our students. They leave with, when they graduate, they actually leave with a notebook full of information that they have learned about themselves and that we have provide an employment agency. So our goal is, and many of them do get referred back to an employment provider, but instead of coming in at this lower level, they're not coming in here.
Mm-hmm.
And we know that, this person wasn't successful on job site number 1 because there was too much freedom. They needed structure. And then our rubrics show that, and with our notes, or, the individual will figure out that they thought that they really wanted to cook and now they don't, or, so we've done a lot of that exploration that happens that first year anyway. So that, again, our goal is that they come in at a higher level and that they maintain their employment longer for that.
Because they kind of know what they're more suited for once they've finished the program.
Yes.
Like
the
something
goal.
may sound good, but you don't
Right.
necessarily like to do it.
Right.
once you get started. So that's nice that they have that in an environment that's really supportive and wanting them to win,
Right.
Because that's not always the case in other
Yes.
areas.
That's very true, Heather.
Yeah.
Leave it at that.
You didn't want to expand on that tonight, or?
Yeah, and I really think that that's the key to success. I'll just, something that happened just today when I was job coaching one of our students. We were just ready to start the job, and he brought his own gloves, and he lost one of the gloves. And, we had to stop, and we were about ready to have a meltdown. She lost a glove.
Mm-hmm.
And we said, do you need to go look for it, or can we start work? Let's break this down. I need to go look for it. Okay. So we told the supervisor what was happening, why we're distracted. He gave us 10 minutes, couldn't find the glove. So we're there with the student, helping them, regulate their emotions and work through that so that they can still be successful at that job site. So then we came back. We didn't have the gloves. He loaned him some gloves. He worked through it. I was amazed. That would not have happened in last September at all. It's like this last month is the time that we really just see
Right.
them blossom into this, like, what? You just
Yes.
did that. Like, I mean, yes, it took a little bit of me prompting, but, it was
Right.
just huge. And so
Awesome.
us just being there really makes a difference.
Yeah,
I
which
think.
those problems can arise in typical jobs out in the community that maybe staff do not know how to handle. We've all run into that. So that's great. I love that.
Yeah.
Yeah. And how many people are in the program? How many students do you have right now?
Yeah, we have 6 right now. And that's been kind of our average. Our first year we had 8,
Okay.
and then second year 6, and then this year 6.
Do you have a max amount that you can take?
We don't know yet.
Okay, because it's still growing. It's still growing.
It's still
Okay,
growing,
gotcha. I didn't know if you were like, we only have this many, staff, and we can only do.
Right.
Okay. Yeah, Dawn, were you gonna?
Well, I was.
Oh.
How many staff people then does Achieve have?
Actually, we have 1 full-time program coordinator and instructor, and that is Miss Angie Groven, and she is employed at the leisure of our board of directors. In their
That's phenomenal.
phenomenal. Yes. You could expand on that.
You would expand on her.
Yeah, I can. Yes, she actually was Chase's teacher for his first 3 years of high school and made an employment change and we couldn't be more excited. It was really interesting when she taught. We, just her level of dedication and commitment, and her ideas were wonderful. What was interesting after she began at Achieve, she said something to the effect of, I thought I really knew what I was doing. She said, now I really know. She said, Lynn is amazing. Has opened my eyes to the potential, to limitless progress. And so, Angie, we just, Miss Growens, she was it. She was just great. Our support coordinator had said, came to the IEP meeting, said she had never met any teacher so dedicated. And so, putting her, kind of in another environment and giving her a different perspective of what is after high school. Mm-hmm. And she's just, I think seems like she's just run with it. So just really excited that she's part of your program.
Yeah.
Well, that's great.
Yeah. She came to us and just is a bountiful, full of energy, very young and full of energy. The students relate to her and she relates to the students so incredibly well, which, as we know, helps their trajectory that much faster. It's not like a mom coming to you. It's, it's more of a coach level, which she does a great job on. So yeah, Angie's been a great asset to our program and will continue to do that. But we are a standalone nonprofit that partners with Evangel University. And that's kind of our format that way, with our one employee.
Okay.
So I want to know, we've talked before, but for this podcast purpose, tell us, the audience, what inspired you to start something like this? Because I think we're all in this room self-starters.
Mm-hmm. Right.
We've got the fire in the belly. So tell us about yours and just how it came to be.
Well, that was my question. I didn't know if it was like your idea. It was your idea, right?
Yes.
That's fantastic.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, mine, but we had the different group of ladies, but so with that, I have a son that has Down syndrome and autism, and I had founded the Down syndrome group of the Ozarks in 2005, I think, or 2006 here in the Ozarks, and kind of built that up for the first 10 years and then was ready to rotate out of that. Interestingly enough, one of the reasons why I was ready to rotate out is when you have a son with Down syndrome and autism and you're running a group of Down syndrome, I started to feel like my son's different. Mm-hmm. And as you always tell your story, and the young moms were coming and I wanted to tell them what a typical child with Down syndrome would do. And that's what they want to hear.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But I couldn't because mine looked totally different.
Mm-hmm.
But I have worked actually with individuals with disabilities for 30 plus years. My undergrad was in therapeutic recreation, and then I have a master's in teaching. And so I have years of experience before I had my own child. But with that, I think I've always had the goal of helping individuals be the best that they can be, and also helping educating parents, educating the students has always been my focus on that as well.
Your passion.
From what I've known, because I've known you over all these years, and is that you seem to gravitate towards the gap. Mm. There wasn't the Down syndrome group. There wasn't. Mm. So you went in and you filled that gap. Some of the other things you've done with your life coaching, you found a gap and you filled it, right. And then you let others maintain it and you move on to find the next gap.
Oh, well said.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I like that.
Thank you.
I like that too.
Yeah.
I would love to have your opinion on how you think Zach differs from the normal Down syndrome young person.
And Zach is your son. And how old is he?
Jack just turned 19.
Oh, Zach or Jack?
Jack.
I'm sorry.
Jack, sorry. I don't know.
Did you say Zach?
I did.
Okay.
My bad.
He literally turned 19 on Monday.
Oh my goodness.
Happy birthday.
So when was he diagnosed? I mean, you obviously you knew he had Down syndrome, and then at what age was he diagnosed with autism or on the spectrum?
Yeah, he was diagnosed actually fairly early
Okay,
at 3,
Okay.
primarily because of lack of language.
Yeah.
And that was kind of the first highlight. And then he always had gut issues. And then I learned that everybody with autism has gut issues.
We've talked a lot about poop on this podcast.
Yeah.
Or some.
Yeah.
That was like my second aha. It's like, but yeah, so I actually just recently looked this up because when he was diagnosed when he was 3, it was estimated about 10% of those with Down syndrome also were on the spectrum. And that has increased to 16 to 18% is kind of an average. I think it could be up to 40, but it's hard to kind of see the difference. But to your question, Dawn, I have not forgotten what that looks like.
I'm just reacting to the statistics.
Yeah, those statistics make us sick, don't they?
Yes, they do.
Yeah. But with that, I think for how he differs from other children with Down syndrome, he's probably a cognitively significantly lower. The repetitive movements I don't see in other kids with Down syndrome. And the social, typically those with Down syndrome, so we love about them is they're so social and fun, and I don't see that with Jack. Autism, I always explain to people, it's like a blanket that covers even what he would have been without it.
Yeah.
Right.
Makes sense.
So, but yeah.
And so what is he doing now?
He graduates from high school in May.
Okay.
So he's got about a month left. And then we're figuring it out like everybody else.
That's another reason we're doing this podcast.
Yes.
Exactly.
Right.
What steps have you explored thus far?
Thus far, we have started, last year, we started our own micro enterprise at home. We live on a farm, and we have always known that Jack can help us, here and there with pieces of things. But we live in Willard, and we have some great resources there, the Hive. And one thing I love about the Hive is that there's lots of things to love. They have a piece of their store that is actually kind of dedicated for individuals with disability to sell their items there. And so we started by planting vegetables this time last year and selling them at the Hive. And then beyond that, this summer we planted lots and lots of beautiful pumpkins. And we sold lots and lots of pumpkins.
And for clarity, the Hive is a store in Willard, Missouri.
Yes, it's actually a coffee shop and deli that employs individuals with disabilities and non.
And how did it come into existence?
It is actually run by Melissa Skaggs. Melissa is a retired counselor from Willard High School, middle school, I guess. She knows everybody in the community, really. And she has a son with Down syndrome. And she went to Partners in Policy. Have you guys talked about partners?
No, feel free.
About that, yeah.
Oh, well, that could take a whole different direction.
Okay.
But that's okay.
Well, you could touch on it if you want.
Partners in Policy, and I'm a graduate. Anybody here ever a graduate?
No, but I've looked it up. I just can't figure out. The couple of times I looked, I'm like, okay, is this the right thing? Like, I'm not sure what I'm doing. Yes.
So I highly recommend it to anyone who is interested and able to go. But it is sponsored by, help me, Missouri Council for Developmental Disability, MODD. Yes, Missouri Developmental Disability Council. And they provide funds. It's basically a massive training for about 10 months. And you go for a weekend once a month. And you learn everything. Even if, I went after I had started and left the Down syndrome group the other day, so I knew what was happening in the community and everything, but you come away with a different perspective and just lots of resources, and it's very they challenge you to be a self-starter, like you said, and to go do and make a difference in your local area and community.
And where is it held?
Jefferson
It's
City.
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Every state has
Columbia.
one, though, right?
I think they
Because
have
I've heard
the
other
ability
people,
to have one,
from other
yes.
states
It's
talk
federally
about it
funded,
too.
I think.
Okay.
So
That's cool.
yeah, I would encourage anybody to look that up. It's a great program.
Okay, so Melissa Skaggs,
She was a graduate.
she was a graduate of, okay.
And it's parents and also individuals that are
Yes.
that have disabilities too that are invited to come.
Yes.
Well, it's interesting too, is because she welcomed in my daughter's Sam
Yeah.
to do her baking internship there. So she
Oh,
was-
that's neat.
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
Oh, it was a really good experience for her.
Yes. Yeah.
And
Yeah,
how long has the
Melissa does
hive
a
been
great-
around? Just a few years, maybe?
I'm going to say 3. I'm going to guess.
Okay.
Sorry, Melissa, if I'm wrong.
Yes. Feel free to contact us.
We'll
We should
schedule a
have,
field trip.
yeah, we should have her on the podcast.
Yeah, we
Yeah.
should. Yes, definitely.
Yeah. She's amazing. She's really, really awesome.
And she's another mom. You know, a lot of moms are the
Right.
starters. You know, if the community or the providers can't find them jobs, leave it up to the moms
Yes,
know.
to get it
and
done.
dads.
That's right.
Exactly.
So your son, you were talking about your son
Yes.
maybe working there, or he does work there?
He sells his
products, sorry, go ahead.
products
Okay,
there.
right.
Yes. So that's kind of what we have explored is our own micro enterprise. And, he doesn't do all of that, but he does pieces of it. And so
Does he have a lot of language, or?
he does not. He has had training for too many years on an AAC device. He uses the LAMP app. But he does not use that without being prompted.
Okay,
So,
gotcha.
yeah, doesn't have any language. But
Right.
yeah.
Okay.
But my dad thinks he's the coolest kid
Yes.
ever. They had a little buddy partnership going there for quite a few years when the boys were in school together.
Yes.
It was,
Oh, that's cute.
You would have thought that was one of his grandsons, the way that Jack was so welcoming and remembered. Yeah, I remembered him. It really, really touched my dad's heart.
Yes.
Oh.
He liked that relationship.
Oh,
Yeah. Jack went to Rivendell with the boys, and when your dad would pick them up, I'd always find Jack with your dad. I was just like, okay.
oh,
Yes,
God.
great memories.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah.
But Jack, I always tease my single friends that Jack can find you a really good guy, because he seriously, like, we'll be sitting around, waiting for your tires to be changed or something.
Mhm.
And if he has a connection, like he did with your dad, with someone, he'll just like go right up to him and sit down and, just have this interaction. I'm like, he only picks the good ones. So give me your number and I'll pass it on.
Oh,
It's that intuition. He
Yeah.
just some people just have that, and that is a great
Yeah.
skill, talent.
yeah. Well, a lot of individuals with autism have that, because that's why personality is such a, important facet when they're learning. Like teachers and different personalities they don't connect with, and I know my son too. He'll find someone in the room, and as soon as someone connects, like Jack, I'm like, oh boy, he'll never leave that person's side.
Yeah.
I see that a lot. I guess is what I'm trying to say with autism.
Well, and to that point, because I know a lot of families, especially not just the younger families, but sometimes older, they're thinking, well, I can't. My child is nonverbal. I can't leave them with someone because they won't be able to tell me how things went or if everything was okay. And I told them, you can tell so much
Yes.
by the way your child acts around that person. I said, it's going to be okay.
Mhm.
You're going to know. You're going to know by the way they're acting around and responding to them.
That's true.
You're gonna figure it out, because they are gonna figure it out. Is that person invested to babysit me or to take me on this job thing?
Mhm.
It's yeah.
Yeah, that was actually at Partners in Policy. That was one of my ahas there. I was like, Jack can totally choose his staff. Like, if we had 2 people and I had a picture of them, he could totally tell me, hire this guy,
Oh, cute.
I think some of our listeners needed to hear that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
yeah.
I agree.
Yeah.
I agree.
Yeah.
So the future of Achieve, like your board of directors, like what are your goals, like for the program? Like, I'm just curious, like what you discuss in your
Yeah.
meetings. Like, I mean, it is private probably, but like, what are your goals going forward, or what are you excited about, or
Right.
what do you want to add or do in the future?
Right.
I think it's great. Like, I'm excited about this program. That's awesome.
Yeah, well, we always want to grow, and we want to, honestly, we have not spent a lot of time and effort simply because we don't have a lot of staff to do time and effort
Right.
for marketing. So it's just kind of been word of mouth. And I think that's a big piece of getting, growing, is
Right.
having more participants. We are also looking at and researching another track that will serve individuals that maybe need more support for their post-secondary programming. They may be nonverbal, like we're speaking of, but interested in gaining more skills in home, school, community, and skills.
Mm-hmm.
And we're looking into that, so growing that program.
Okay. And what is the cost of the program?
Yeah, currently our cost is $8,000 for the year, so
Okay.
$4,000 each semester.
Okay.
We have payment options of all of it per semester or monthly. We do have scholarships. We write a lot of grants. We knock on a lot of doors to get funds for scholarship money. We recognize that most families have not necessarily planned for that. However, we believe, and our board believes, that with the ABLE account and things like that, and a lot of education, like what you all are doing for families, that in another 5 years, that won't be a case. And people will have planned for post-secondary education, and it will be just part of what the family does and the expectation of that.
Right. That there's,
So it'll be easier.
yeah, there's room for my child with a disability
Right.
in college.
Excellent.
Yeah, that'd be great. That's a huge goal.
Well,
And
the
other
more
col-
programs that are out there too. The more programs we have, the more the parents see, and it's like, oh, well, my kid may not be able to go to the typical college, Evangel, and go to the classes, but hey, we could save for this program.
Right.
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 Speaking of like the typical program, like we always use the word higher functioning because I know that's not the right term anymore, but that's the old school term. So for those students that are able to do a little bit more, like okay, for example, my son who's interested in like media and stuff like that, do they have options to like work in the media department at Evangel, or like what type of jobs are they doing
According to their interests.
according to their interest?
Yeah.
I mean, you're not going to force them into the TV studio or whatever, but I'm just saying, like for those ones that can and are able to do more, according to their interests, where are you placing them?
Right. No, that's a great question. And there's actually several different aspects of Achieve we haven't even touched yet. So one is that our students are able to audit any class that they're interested in doing.
Oh, okay.
Oh, wow.
Most of the time we allow that the second semester, but we have made some, it's all individual really, because sometimes they're interested in a class and it's only offered the first semester. So we're like, oh, I guess you're going to do it this time. We're going to make an exception for you. But yes, they can audit any classes. I would say majority of all of our students that have attended thus far have taken a class.
Neat.
And at least one class. We've had others take more than one. And it does vary. Sometimes it's subject matter interests. Sometimes it's psychology or English grammar. We had 2 students do
really?
that. So yeah, they were interested in writing, but they knew they needed help.
True.
So they took more English. So so that, and as far as job sites, we do look for their particular interest on campus first. And if we're unable to find something that would fit that on campus, that's when we start going out off-site.
Okay.
So
I did go to Evangel, and I graduated from Evangel.
Oh, yay.
And
Tara. There you go.
Brandon Beck was my manager at the CAF. And he worked on the EU television station. So that's why I know that there's a working television station and everything. So that's why I asked that question. Do you have any future plans to allow for the students to live in the dorms? That's my.
Oh, I like that.
Yeah, that's a great question.
Because that's the whole learning experience there,
It
independent
is.
living.
It sure is. We've had one student who's been interested in that, and we have approached administration, and they were open to conversations, but we haven't had the opportunity to explore that much.
Okay.
So that's what. When you start a new program, that's what's so fun. You're just like, okay, let's try that.
Yeah, right.
Let's try to make it happen.
Yeah, and you just learn so much from living in the dorms, and you learn social skills, but also a lot of other skills. So
Independent skills.
Yeah, independent skills.
Yes.
Washing your body, hygiene, things like that. Living with other people and them commenting on your hygiene, and all those things. So I know that, I graduated from Evangel, but I was telling my kids I graduated with a degree in sand volleyball and hacky sack because that's about all I did there. I mean, I don't believe that. I did get a degree, but I had to go back later and do a different degree somewhere else to learn what I'm actually going in for. So
More on Tara's story later.
Yeah. I'm really good at hacky sack though. But it was just such a. I mean.
It is.
I would never give up that experience because I learned so much as a person there, and living in the dorms and living with people and how to get along with people. You have to sort of, you rub each other raw at times, and that you can't learn. Like when you're only in school for a certain amount of time, sometimes you can hold it together long enough to leave for the day. But when you're living with someone, it changes things. So.
I totally agree. And speaking of reapplying for a second year, that's definitely one of those that if a student is interested in coming for a second year and interested in staying in the dorms, I think that would make a lot of sense to kind of, for that next step, to scaffold that up.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I commend Evangel, for taking on this program and being open, like you have that one student that
Thank you, Evangel.
That, that may want to live in a dorm and keeping that open for them to possibly do that. Mm-hmm. That's awesome.
Right. Yeah. And that's something down the road, maybe that will just grow and the program will change. So even better than it is. I'm excited. I didn't know that much about it. It's great. Dawn, did you have something to say?
I'm an Evangel graduate too. So way back in the day.
Can you hacky sack?
Yeah. No, sorry.
How about sand volleyball?
Sorry. Way before my time.
Yeah.
Yes, I was the first part of the first graduating class to go from the chapel, the new chapel. So all of my dorm room, classrooms were in the barracks. Yeah, so I go way back.
Well, actually, all mine were in the barracks too.
Oh, really?
I only had 1 year in the new academic building, which is not new anymore. It's like 20 years old.
Yeah. So I've already disclosed that I'm a Assemblies of God PK. So how I
PK is pastor's kid.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay.
Thank you, Tara.
MK would be missionary's kid.
Yeah.
Okay.
There's a whole language.
There you go.
Okay.
So how supportive has the Assemblies of God and Evangel been? I mean, obviously they're hosting you. Has there been any financial commitment on their part?
Good question.
Yes, in that they, every year when we put together our budget, we include all of the in-kind. We could not exist without their in-kind donations that they give us.
Plus their facility and the room. And
right.
We have an office in the education department, our own office. We have our own classroom. We do have meals there, but that's subsidized Sodexo. So it's, the students have to pay extra for that. It's not provided by Evangel. But their use of their internet, the use of the campus, we
Access to
work out,
students.
access to students.
Mm-hmm.
All of that is invaluable. We couldn't
Absolutely.
exist without that.
Absolutely.
We absolutely couldn't.
Good to know.
Yeah.
As I view my denomination, it's like the only national disability ministry that they had at a national level was the Center for the Blind. And they sort of pulled the plug on that, several years back. And so, I'm not privy to the inside stuff, so I don't know. So thank you for that. And I'll give a pat to Evangel, my alma mater as well.
Right. Yes.
So thank you for that report.
And as you mentioned before, any in-kind donations from anywhere in the community is certainly accepted. Correct?
Yes. Oh, yes, definitely. We would love that. Yeah.
I have another question.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. You can answer
You're
it,
fine.
or you can
You're fine,
not
Tara.
answer
You're
it,
part
or we
of the
could just
podcast.
edit it all out. But I have a question about, so if you sign up or are interested in it, do you have to be Assembly of God? Do you have to be religious? Do you have to be,
Good question.
because I know that, we had to sign a covenant
Yes.
saying that we weren't going to do certain things. Do you expect that of your students?
Right. Well, that's a great question. And it's a question we get often. So I'm glad that you brought it up. And the first question is, no, you do not have to be Assemblies of God. We have Catholics there. We have people who don't even ever go to church. It's just a wonderful, safe environment is what we like to think of it as. But there is definitely, being a graduate from there, you may know there is an expectation of behavior. I personally don't think it's any different than expectation in general. They do not sign anything. However, in our handbook, for our student handbook, they are expected to hold up to the same expectations and behaviors as any general student.
Okay.
The only thing that they do sign, come to think of it, is an internet, which basically says, I'm going to use the internet here on campus appropriately.
Okay.
Yeah.
So that is something that all students sign, and ours do too.
So they don't have to have, I remember this when I signed up for Evangel many, many years ago, that we had to have a pastor's referral. Do they have to have that?
No, I don't even
Okay.
think general students do have
Okay.
that.
It's changed.
Yeah. Definitely.
And I did not, we didn't go to organized church, so I had to figure that out. Who was going to sign that referral?
Go to church for like 3 weeks and go ask the pastor.
I did. I was like, I've been here all along. Don't you remember me?
Like I said, more on Tara's story later.
We came from a very hippie vineyard home church.
Hacky sack said it all.
Yeah. But I do have a degree in missions. And hacky sack and volleyball. But that's why I was wondering, because sometimes, like, even if they may not be religious, they still want that referral or whatever.
Yeah,
So.
there's no referral. And I don't want to speak for Evangel's admissions, but I don't think that they do that.
It's changed.
Yeah.
Yes.
Can I ask you, Lynn, if, we've got some listeners out there and they're transitioning from high school into post-secondary school.
Mm-hmm.
What's required from your students, or when they want to start the admission process, who do they contact at your program, and then what's required of them to move forward, and then what kind of criteria, and then what, again, where did they begin?
Mm-hmm. Great question. Our admissions and application is online at our website, which is www.achieveswmo.com, and it's open all the time. Most of the time, families just start thinking of transition around January. They're like, oh my gosh, we got 4 more months and it's over.
Mm-hmm.
So that's usually the time that we start seeing some applications. We close applications usually around the end of March, 1st of April, and start our interview session then. So they fill out an application online. Sometimes they do that and we call them and we say, hey, we would love for you to come do a visit to our campus and talk to our students. And sometimes they come do a visit before they fill out the application. But we always just encourage them to come to campus, again, because that's how the students, one of our vetting process is we want the student to be there, to want to be there.
Right.
And not forced by mom and dad.
Right.
Mhm.
And it's not high school.
Because it
You
won't
don't
be
have to go.
productive if they don't want to be there.
Yeah. Now granted, we only had 3 years in, but we have 76% of our students graduate, have a job in the summer.
Awesome.
And we think that one of the reasons is the students want to be there. And that's a big difference.
Mhm.
You know, they want to learn, they want to grow, they're open to the feedback that we give them and the coaching. And that's one thing we're going to look for. So we want them to come to campus. We want to do a tour. We want them to talk. We usually sign up so that they're there during one of the 3 days that our students are there. And we want them to look at the students and see who's there and ask them questions. And our students tell them, and you never know what's going to come out of their mouth, but you just kind of hope it'll be something that connects, right?
Right.
But that's a big piece of it, is doing a visit. And then after a visit and we accept their applications, we ask them to give us 3 references. One has to be an educator. We have a packet that we then send to those references, and then we get it back. So we don't ask the student to get a reference letter. We do that legwork for them. And then we invite them in and we interview them. We interview the student and the parents together first for about the first 20 minutes. And then we ask the parents to step out and we interview the students. And then we kind of switch them and we interview the parent and the student. One of the reasons also why we believe we have such a high outcomes is that a piece of the program I haven't talked about is when the parents are interviewing, we're really looking for parents and families that are invested in their students.
Right. Important.
Because we know that evidence-based research tells us that the trajectory of our students includes the support of their immediate families or guardians or things like that. So we want to support the whole family, not just our students. Like if something's going on, we're going to try to figure it out, but we're also going to involve the parent and say, hey, what's going on here? And because they're the
Communication between, yes, that's very important.
Yes.
Not only communication, but the parents have to agree to attend at least 2 parent workshops that we host. And those are mandatory. And so if they miss the one that the group comes to, they have to sign up for an individual one, and they have to meet with me, the principal, one-on-one.
I like that, Lynn.
But we spend a lot of time pouring a lot of information and resources into the parents, and we really try and help them. And I'm laughing now kind of inside because I have worked in the industry for 30 plus years, and it's so easy to tell people what to do, but to do it yourself, you're like, wait. But, but I really believe, and I've seen in working at CC Links and things like that, so it's adversary relationships with parents, and we don't want that to happen. And we know most of our students go back and live at home, at least for a period of time. And so we really try to coach the parents on how to be a coach, not a parent, and how to continue to set up systems in their home to help their student be more independent, which they don't get at school. That's kind of an extra thing. So we spend a lot of time on that. I also am a certified work incentive planner through SS Social Security. So we spend a lot of time. Our whole second workshop is on what are your benefits going to look like when they start working, and what do I need to do? So we do a lot of counseling on that.
That's fantastic.
I do a lot of future planning. What's your future plan financially, and estate planning, and give them a lot of resources on that.
Wow.
So we support the whole family in that. And that's a big piece of Achieve.
I feel like applauding.
I know. I know. Me too. I was like, can I set up a meeting with you?
Did you say you were a life coach?
Exactly.
Good job. I mean, sincerely, good job on that. That's really great.
I really appreciate that. And that is kind of back to what Heather said, you're like, how'd you come up with that? I was like, well, these are all the pieces that everybody needs. And so you just need to put them all in one thing.
Fill in the gap.
Fill in the gap.
And there you go.
Fill in the gap, Lynn Neidigh. Fill in the gap, yeah. I love that. Is there anything
And
else?
I'm
you wanna-
retiring.
Yeah. Oh, no, you're not.
She's here to hire her predecessor.
Right. Oh my gosh. You're really not retiring, are you?
You're not, right?
Kind of, yeah.
Oh no. Oh no.
Well, if you have time for one more question, and how do you work with students and Ms. Grovins on technology and understanding, because so many of our students, our children, young adults are just so hooked on technology, and it's a great tool, but it can also be a great time suck. So how do do you help them to learn how to manage their screen time, for lack of a better word?
That's a good question.
That'd be a great Miss Groven question, but I think in general, those classroom times, even though we have specific, and I wanted to share these with you anyway, so specific curriculum units that we use, like financial and safety and self-determination and making sure they have a resume and interview skills and things like that, I would say probably 70% of our classroom time is spent on the self and what that is. So what is it? What are your habits? What's your mindset? How are you figuring out your day? What are you setting goals? It's all that executive functioning skills, like regulating yourself, whether it's, just your emotions or what you're doing with your time or anything like that. And we spend a lot of time on that.
Oh, perfect.
Oh yeah, perfect is right. Perfect is right. That's so important. That will lead them through life as adults. They're going to have to know how to do that.
Right.
I mean, listen, my son has a hard time if the power goes out regulating. So what's he going to do?
Yeah.
But I mean, serious, you do have to teach them.
Yes.
Well, you can read, you can do that. I mean, there's
Intentional.
yeah.
Because some of our kids, it obviously doesn't come naturally. And
Right.
They need to be taught.
Yeah, that was my point. Yeah. Good.
Yeah.
Well said. Yes.
Yep.
Yeah. Anything else you want to share about the program that we've missed, or?
I think I finally got to all the pieces to it, but those were really good questions.
You want to say your website again? Or no, go ahead. Sorry.
And one more thing about Chapel, because we do get that question often, that it is not mandatory, but we do strongly encourage, or I guess I could say we make it mandatory kind of the first 2 weeks of each semester. And then they have a choice on whether they want to go to Chapel or if they want to stay in the classroom. We have other learning for them to do. And it varies. Sometimes we don't feel like going to church or to chapel. And so most, even if they're a regular kind of goer, sometimes they just choose to stay back. They're having a quiet day. Chapel is an experience at Evangel. So if you are coming from a different, denomination, it's a lot, especially for our students sometimes on the spectrum. I mean, we give them earphones or, to muffle, and some are not used to the energy that they have in there. And so it's an experience in itself.
So will they go by themselves sometimes or with their peer, with their other student?
Yes, great question. Yeah, they can go, it kind of depends on the individual. But
Okay.
Yeah, we let them go by themselves, or they hook up with their peer mentor. This two couple of weeks, we all go together.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes, if it's like Christmas, we're all going to go, or, something like that. But it's mostly, again, you're in that culture. So that's what you're doing. But spiritual growth is important for anybody too.
Right.
So.
Yes, I agree. Okay. So let's say your website one more time.
Yes. It's Achieve SWMO.com. And our application is on there. You can also reach our office, which is 417-865-2815. And we're at extension 8544.
Right. And that's the Achieve program in partnership with Evangel University. Well, thank you, Lynn Neidigh.
Thank you.
We are
guys.
very excited to have you. With a lot of great information.
Yeah. Thank you for the invite.
You are more than welcome. Hey, Tara. You're next.
That's my cue. Okay, so you can look at our website at navigatingadultautism.com. You can listen to us on Spotify or Apple or on the website under Navigating Adult Autism. And then we also have Instagram and Facebook, Navigating Adult Autism Podcast. So thanks for listening.
Excellent. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.
Yep.